To another tutorial. We are going to do a sphere today, and the sphere obviously starts with a circle. So before we get going, I want you to make sure that you have selected the workspace as Essentials Classic so that we have all the various buttons that we're going to need to use today. The first shape obviously is the circle, so we're going to start off with the ellipse tool, or you can press L for ellipse. And there is our circle. The next step will be to make just a simple ellipse for the shadow and plop that underneath. You can see it sticks out a little bit further on the right than it does on the left, and that is because our shadow is going to, or our light source is going to come from about here, which spreads our shadow out to the right a little bit more. Now to put that behind, Shift Command open square parentheses, and you're done. Now the next one is going to be a rectangle for the background, so press M for the hotkey, or come over here and select rectangle tool and drag the rectangle across to about halfway down the page. Do the same on the bottom, just like this. Make sure it fills the entire section. I left a gap at the bottom there. There we go. And then Command Shift open square parentheses to drop it behind. Command Shift open square parentheses to put that behind as well. Now the colors, pretty straightforward. We're going to have a dark color for the background here. Let's make that a dark blue, but I think I might use the swatches just to make it a bit easier. Oops, let's change that. There we go. I had the stroke on instead of the fill. Now that looks good. Okay, we'll make the table a little bit lighter. Something like, oops, again, got the fill in front. Let's change that to a lighter blue. There we go. This is going to be darker still. Okay, and then here we're going to have our gradient. Now, click on gradient. It defaults to what is called a linear gradient, which is perfect for a cylinder, but not good for a sphere. So we're going to click on this one here called the radial gradient. And radial basically means it starts in the middle and radiates out in a circular pattern. Okay, so that looks pretty good, except the light source is not coming from where we need it to match our shadow. So we're going to come over here and click on Edit Gradient, and that will give you this little bar here. Now, the tricky part is clicking on the black dot. Okay, if you're really close to it, it looks like you've got the arrow, but that won't move the black dot. That's just going to move the center point, which can work, I guess, just like that. But I find it even better if we move this all the way up as well, and that gives a little bit more of a transition. And if you want the transition to be even bit better, you can move this in and out as well. Okay, so we'll leave it there. That looks pretty good. Now our sphere, we're going to make the colors different, so double click in there to change the color. Make that a dark blue, just like that. Maybe a slightly different shade. Okay, and then this one will make a light blue. That'll do. And as you can see, oops, it's all looking pretty good. Now, the last thing we do is we get rid of all the outlines. So select everything with the bounding box and come over here to the stroke and then click on the None button underneath the stroke, and you'll have no outlines now. So that looks pretty good. It's three-dimensional. It's exactly what we're kind of looking for. And if you can get to that stage, well done. One other thing you can do, which looks kind of cool, and we haven't done this with any of the other shadows yet, but if you click on the shadow, we can add a blur. So click on Effect, come down to Blur, and this one here, can never work out how to say it, Gaussian blur, and then you can add a blur. Make sure you select Preview, slide the scale to get an idea of what it's going to look like. So around about 15 or so looks good. And you can see it gives it a bit of a blur to make it look more like a shadow. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. It's a pretty straightforward one. Enjoy it as you make it, and let me know how you go.